Hey guys, welcome back to Maxplained, Dawn for Unification. Today I have a new faction guide for the 13th company. Finally, the 7.2 version is out, so I can resume these guides as I go with the alphabet. The first one is actually not a letter but a number, 13th company. They got quite a lot of changes in the to 7.0 and some changes to 7.2 as well. It's been a while since I did the guide, and yeah, so it's been a while for me, so bear with me with these. The 13th company is basically a more elite, less in number crew, you could say. Lore-wise, they have been in the warp and has grown some mutations as well. And yeah, they are, I think, part of this, what they called again, the Snowy Marine faction. So yeah, they are a bit themed around that. And yeah, in general, pretty strong faction, one of the strongest Unification has currently, maybe a bit too strong. But yeah, let's go over what they have to offer in a save game I have prepared. And here we are on the save game where we see the majority or every unit of 13th company in one view. But before we jump into the actual units and buildings, we quickly look over the resources and unit caps. The resources, the first two are more or less standard, the requisition and power. And then you have a third resource, which is your scrap. Scrap is shown in your HQ over here. There's a little bug right now that it doesn't show because there's the tier up icon over it. So you only see it when you're either tiering up or you have the latest tier. So you have to keep the amount of scrap you have in your mind. How you get access to these resources is also not completely standard. Let's start with the two standard resources you get from your buildings, which is kind of similar to Necrons, kind of. You get 10 requisition and 5 power from your HQ, 5 requisition from your wolf den, which is your barracks, and 10 requisition and 5 power from your Hall of Knowledge, which is your armory. You also get resources from capping points, of course, +6, but then building like the booby trap points, which is you do not have access to listing posts, you have only this, which increases your income by +1 requisition and +1 power. So this point over here produces +7 requisition and +1 power. You also can build booby trapped slacks on slack deposit, which provides 2 requisition and 2 power as well. And then finally you can get resources by scavenging the enemy using your Iron Priest's ability over here. He has 2 abilities, scavenge and make do and mend. The scavenge gives you 25 requisition and 25 power if used on an enemy vehicle or building. This can be increased if you get your resource upgrades over here. If you have your first requisition upgrade, this goes to a 50 requisition, and if you have the second one, to 75 requisition. Similar, this is for the power. So in the end, scrap gives you 75 power and 75 requisition, and it also provides 2 scrap each from these. You can also use this make do and mend on your own buildings, which only provides 1 scrap and damages your buildings quite a lot. This one damages enemy vehicles buildings just a bit. You can increase the scrap you can get from these also with an upgrade, which is the scrap research, increasing the scrap you get from each ability by +1 for each of these 2 upgrades. So you can later then get 4 scrap from scavenge and 3 scrap from make do and mend. Very good in late game, where you sometimes do not have the ability to get scrap easily from your opponent and need a lot of scrap. Scrap is used for your late game units and upgrades. These are your resources. Now the unit caps, you have squad cap and vehicle cap. For the most part, you only have squad cap. All the units you have cost squad cap with one exception, which I will cover shortly. You start off with 9 squad cap and 1 vehicle cap. You increase your squad cap by researches in your wolf den. The pack increased to up to 30 instead of the standard 20 because you have mainly infantry. The 1 vehicle cap is 1 per HQ, and there's only 1 unit costing vehicle cap, which is the Rhino, which I will cover later. This HQ is meant that you build some more down the lines because it's rather cheap to have more than one, which I will cover when I talk about the buildings, which is basically now. So having this covered, now talking about buildings, you have your Chaos Gate, which is your HQ used to build your builder units and all your commander units, like these 3 commanders and your Primarch. Also your late game vehicles are also all produced over here. Also is the building where you can upgrade, of course. The SSC, it gets infiltrated later down the line. I think it's tier 3 or tier 4. in the beginning it is very visible. You can build more than one HQ, of course, and you are much, how should I say, yeah, it's very useful to build more than one because it is A, rather cheap, and B, it gives you resources. And as you see, like in the late game, you have all these different units you can get out of here, so you get bottlenecked by only having one Chaos Gate. The idea is that you can get in tier 2 or in tier 3 latest a second one, so at least a second one, so you can have more economy, more production, and also more vehicle cap for a second Rhino. The next building is the Wolf Den. The Wolf Den is basically your barracks producing all your different infantry squads. The bikes are vehicles, but you get the idea. There's also upgrades for your standard grenades and melter bombs, and also your pack increase. You see also this is infiltrated, I think in tier 2 or tier 3. I think it's tier 3. Then you have your Hall of Knowledge, which is basically your armory. You have all your different researches. There are also like research like plasma pistols and power swords, and jumpy pack research, which I haven't here. Note that the second tiers of these all cost scrap. You see the scrap is actually this purple icon over here. You can see it in this cost over here. This purple icon means scrap. So yeah, except for the research over here, the second part of it always costs scrap. You see that this unit is also a unit. This building is also infiltrated at the same time this Wolf Den is infiltrated. There's even one more nifty thing about these buildings is that they provide a little health regeneration aura for your units. As you do not have listening posts, this is kind of your fallback idea that if you want to defend, stay next to your buildings so you have a health regeneration aura. One last thing about these buildings is that you can produce them everywhere on the map, so you can use this health regeneration aura also in an offensive way. Placing a barracks, preferably not an armory, closer to your enemy base, having a place where you can produce units directly in the field, and B, having some health regeneration around it, helping you in your advance. Also, these two buildings, the Wolf Den and the Hall of Knowledge, are limited to 3 per HQ. So there's another instance of you wanting to have a second HQ because you want to have more resources from buildings later on the line, else you are limited by 3 each. This is your buildings, your standard buildings out of the way. Now talk about defensive buildings. I already covered the booby-slacked slag and booby-trapped point. They get infiltrated in tier 2. You have a turret, a cryogun turret, which can be upgraded to graviton gun turret. You have razor wires and a tank trap. Razor wires slow your enemy movement and dealing some minor damage, while as the tank trap is just a very heavy building, putting it on the way. You also have mines, and these mines and also these booby-slapped points have a special ability. You can also already see it from the razor wire over here. Quickly jump over to the other player where you can see that this is these minefields infiltrate all buildings around it, even these Wolf Den and stuff, before they get their own infiltration. It only works in a small area around it, and you can see here that it targets quote unquote the center of a building. So if you put the Wolf Den, for example, in this next to it, it does not get infiltrated. If you put it this way, it get infiltrated. This is mainly before the Wolf Den. All other buildings are small enough that you can put it anywhere close to this minefield and will get infiltrated. These minefields, because they have these special trait, cost a little more than your standard minefield. Your standard minefield costs 50-50. These cost 60 and 60. Yeah, I think one last thing about these buildings. The Chaos Gate is your main deep strike building. You can deep strike later your Terminators from this Wolf Den as well, but every commander, every builder unit, Dreadnought even later, and most infantry units can be deep strike from your Chaos Gate. It has a delay of 15 seconds, and there's a little unintended adjustment that slipped through, was that the deep strike delay when you put a unit down here was 5 seconds and is now also 15 seconds. So this is a little oversight. It's a little annoying that you have to wait a little longer, but the 13th company, as I said earlier, is considered still one of the strongest faction Unification has to offer. So you have to wait a little bit longer before your unit appears. Okay. With that out of the way, we now cover the units. We always start with the units with the commanders and builders. For the builders, I already covered a bit. Is builds unit, repairs unit, has this ability scavenge, make, do, and mend. And yeah, I forgot to tell you in the resources, then you can get a generator. The generator costs scrap and requisition and can be deployed by your Iron Priest. It is a temporary unit, so it will decay and then destroy itself over time, providing plus 10 power. So it only uses in the late game where you maybe starve for power. He has also the ability which is called Scrap Armor, which increases the health and decreases the speed of a unit. You can see it for Leman Russ over here, for example, increases the HP by quite a bit, so it's percentage based, and yeah, gives this unit quite a lot of sustain, but costs 1 power and is 1 scrap and is locked behind tier 2. He can also get this Demon Hammer in tier 2, which needs the power sword upgrade, and yeah, is then a little better in melee. For the most part, these guys are very important to the army, are limited to 3. You always want to have 3 out because you want to A, have them as combat support, and B, want to have these abilities available for you. They also can decap points, which is very important. In the previous version, it was a good strategy to delete your own listing post once you see your Iron Priest coming in. Because then he couldn't scrap. You still can do it, but this time your point will get decapped, so not the best option all the way around. Okay, this is your builder. Now your different commander units. The first commander in tier 1 is the Wolf Lord. The Wolf Lord has an, I think, damage aura and morale aura around him, can be attached as well, and has in tier 2 a Cry of War ability, which is basically the War Shout ability from your Force Commander. The Force Commander gets it in tier 2. He does not, and all the commanders in fact does not benefit from the weapon upgrades like the plasma pistols. They all have their starting loadout and will not change. In tier 3 he can summon a Wolf Guard unit, which is limited by 1 special unit, infantry unit we will cover later. In tier 2 you get access to your Wolf Priest. The Wolf Priest is basically your chaplain, also having a little health regeneration aura, has this Croziers and plasma pistol without any research. He starts with a plasma pistol. Very strong in melee with his mace, and as I said, health regeneration aura. Has 2 abilities. The Wolf Growl, which is basically your demoralizing shout, slows and morale decrease, but it is an AoE around it, not a single unit. It's a very, very strong ability. Very good in combination with other melee units or to give some space for your ranged units. He also has the ability Wolf and Fury, which increases the charge and basically speed and damage of a unit, only temporarily, but also increases the damage he receives. It also carries over to the unit he is attached to. Finally, in tier 3 you get access to the Rune Priest, which is your librarian kind of guy. Also has an aura, I think, and can use 3 different abilities. Right off the gate you have your Hellfrost Blast. This is basically a snowball dealing some damage. Then you have your Fenrisian Mist, which is gives you basically a big area where your enemy doesn't deal as much damage to you. So you have a big smoke grenade, kind of. And the last one is the big seller here, the Stormcaller. Is a big AoE damage around him, dealing a lot of damage, but mostly the damage is done to aircraft. You see it also does some friendly fire, but that is only minor, very well in fending off either blobs of units or like aircraft units. He also starts with all these abilities research right off the gate, so once he hits the field he can immediately use all of them. Last but not certainly least is your Primarch, the Leman Russ. Leman Russ is a very strong combatant, can be deep striked from the HQ, has this powerful Frost Sword and these, where's my mouse? Combi Bolter over here. And yeah, has an aura which increases morale and damage around him as well, and can summon in a Leman Russ Exterminator. The Leman Russ Exterminator itself I will cover later, but note the cost, it states over here, is a little more than your Leman Russ normally would cost. This is basically because you can summon it in the field without having to produce it and wait for it to drive all the way where you want to have it. Also costs 1 scrap and counts towards a combined limit I will talk later. Oof. With these commanders out of the way, now we jump over to infantry. The infantry in general is your backbone of the army, especially for 13th Company, as you have only limited access to vehicles for the most part. The first unit, which is the backbone as well, your bread and butter, is your Grey Slayers. The Grey Slayers are basically a stronger, quote-unquote, standard Space Marines. They have a limited squad size of 3 in the early game and get higher squad size with the tiering, 1 each. Why they have such a low squad size in the early game is because they are stronger. They have more damage and more NGP than your standard Marines, and yeah, that's why. You can get the Grey Slayer Pack Leader in tier 2, which gives you a little aura around them, increasing the morale, I think, maybe even damage, and it also gives them this Booby Trap, which is basically a snare trap stuff, which costs some resources and also a scrap, which this unit has a global cooldown to all other pack leaders here as well. What you also see here are smoke grenades and frag grenades. Smoke grenades, you know, is like your damage resistance, range damage resistance for friend or foe in this area. And you see already here that it has a shared cooldown with the frag grenades. It also gets researched with the frag grenades in one research, and that it has a shared cooldown per unit, that is damage wise. So you can not throw frag grenades and have the smoke grenades, so you have to decide. Weapon wise, you get flamers in tier 1 and plasma guns and melter guns in tier 2. Very versatile, very strong, so you always want to have at least 2 or 3 of each in your army. You also start with one lonely Grey Slayer, which I call George Grey Slayer, when you start a game, because you do not get capping units until you build your Wolf Den, which takes a while, and yeah, most factions get capping units from your HQ. To make up for it, you start with one Grey Slayer dude. You need to reinforce them if you want to use them in the combat scenario, so yeah, that's how this goes. In tier 2 you get access to more units. You get, for example, the Long Fangs, which is basically your Devastator kind of squad, also increases in squad size throughout the tiers, has a pack leader which is basically similar to the Grey Slayer pack leader in terms that it gives you access to the Booby Trap ability, and these auras have in terms of abilities also the smoke grenade, but also melters. So they do not have a shared cooldown. You can use the smoke grenades and then the melter bombs, but the melters are more limited in terms of usage, because these are normally meant to be in range, where these melters are not in range to fire. These, as I said, these have these heavy bolters, can upgrade missile launches in tier 2, and later down the tiers you get plasma cannons, laser cannons and multi-melters, so quite a variety of weapons for them. The next tier 2 unit you have access to is the Stormclaws. The Stormclaws are more or less assault marines, but they do not start with these jetpacks. The jetpacks are tier 3 research. They're more chunky and a little more slow on the feet. You can see here they're a little more slow and chunky lads. Have access to various weapons in terms of plasma guns, power fists and power axes. Their squad leader is similar to all the squad leaders we had before, with the aura and also the booby trap. They have access to all the different grenades, which makes them very versatile, and as I said, the jump pack enables them the jump ability in tier 3. In tier 2 they are more like slow chunky lads with a lot of grenades. The last tier 2 squad you have access to are these Wolves of Fenris. They are, if you see it over here, demon armor, which can have benefits or some drawbacks depending on the situation. They are very fast and very dealing a lot of damage, not the toughest units around, cost power to reinforce, so you need to be a little careful with them. They get infiltrated, as you can see here later down the line. I think it's tier 3 when they get infiltrated. You can check it in the tech tree later to be 100% certain. Have no ranged capabilities, but have a very nice ability, which is the Wolf Growl, which decreases enemy morale around the squad. Has very nice synergy with the Wolf Priest Wolf Growl, which can, if you use it after another, can deplete the enemy morale for an extended amount of time. Very handy. This is your tier 2 units. Your tier 3 adds quite a lot of squad possibilities as well. You can see here the Wolf Guard starts off as a more or less more stronger Grey Slayer. Has also a Wolf Guard Sergeant, which does not get the booby trap here. It does provide the assurance of Rust, which is basically a rally ability. Have access to smoke grenades and frag grenades, but have a more special variety of weapons. They also have plasma guns and melter guns, but also cryo guns and one graviton gun. So very cool in terms of weapon options. The next squad you have is your Wolfen. The Wolfen is your melee superiority unit, has heavy infantry high armor to sustain some damage. You can, for the most part, compare it to the Possessed Marine of Chaos Marine, so melee only, very fast. Can use two abilities, Wolf and Rage, which is similar to the one which has the Wolf Priest here. Increases the speed and damage, but increases damage taken, and also the assurances of Russ, which is basically a rally ability from the Wolfen Marine pack leader. The last two units you get in tier 3 are your Terminator variants. You have your Assault Storm Claw Terminator squads, which is your Assault Terminators with Power Claws, can get Thunder Hammers and Power Swords. Have also Smoke Grenades if researched. Already start with a teleport ability without needing to research. And when you get your Terminator Wolf Priest, which is actually locked behind tier 4, you get access to the Will of Russ, which provides a bonus to attack damage over here. And also the Assurances of Russ, which is basically the rider ability I told you earlier. The Stormclaw Terminators are basically, in terms of abilities and squad leader, basically the same in terms of ability, jumping and stuff, but have different weapon options. In general are more melee focused, of course, but can get also cryo guns, assault cannons, or cyclone missile launchers. I myself like the cyclone missile launchers most because they add an additional weapons instead of replacing one, but that's basically me. The cryo gun and assault cannons are also very good options depending on the situation. And lastly, in tier 4 you get access to this limited one Death Sworn pack, which is a melee superiority unit, but can also get some ranged weapons if you so need. It's a flamer, melter gun, or plasma pistol, depending on the situations. Very good in melee, are very fast, and can use the Ymira class stasis bomb, which is basically a slow and damage over time grenade, which can only be targeted on enemy squads, not on the ground. So it will always be a hit. Very potent in tier 4. You see they are okay, fastish. They have a charge if they go closer and stuff. So they are very good unit as well. Look at the HP of them, 6 models with 6000 HP. So they are very tanky lads, very hard to take down, but it's tier 4 after all. With all these units now out of the way, we will jump over to the vehicles. The first vehicle of these you can see here you have access to is the Rhino. The Diamond Pattern Rhino is as I said, limited to 1 per HQ, has smoke launchers if you research the grenades, which is more or less standard for Rhino, but also has this hunter-killer missile for vehicles and buildings in 100 range. Very nice to have some additional anti-vehicle fire from afar. Can transport units, but only 1 unit. So you're in terms of mobility, you're more aligned on your HQ, deep swiping units, or having your buildings closer to your opponent, where you produce the units right in the field, rather than having a lot of rhinos covering your units, driving your units around. But for, let's say, if you have one Devastator that you can carry around, it's very potent still. The next units of these you have access to are these bikes. In tier 3 you have access to these bikes. Note that all these units cost scrap, these bikes as well. They also cost, no scrap to reinforce, but to get it on the field. They are very fast, very potent in melee, but also in range. Don't they have ranged weapons right of the way? Yeah, it doesn't show in the unit card, but they do have ranged weapons right of the way. You can exchange them with a plasma gun, heavy bolter, or multi-melter. And yeah, they have a pack leader. They have access to all the different grenades, which makes them very versatile, and also a rally ability to get back in shape once the morale is broken, which is tied to the Stormclaw bike leader. You also see that they are infiltrated. Infiltration kicks in, I think, in tier 4, I think, and then they are infiltrated, so making them kind of useful in late game capping and hidden attack scenarios. In tier 4 you get access to more units, mostly importantly this Lehman Russ from your Primarch, the Predator, and the Dreadnought. All these share a limited a shared cap of 3, so you cannot get more than 3 of each. These, because they do not use any vehicle cap, these vehicles are capped by number, you could think of. These bikes are also kept at 3, for example. Yeah, the Predator Infernos is, like the name states, a Predator Infernos, having some fiery bits and stuff. Very useful, very good Predator. Then you have your Ironclad Dreadnought, which has also a lot of HP, can be deep strike from your HQ, which is the important part, and has access to 2 hunter-killer missile abilities, which have not a shared cooldown, so you have 2 of these, which you can see here on the back. So very useful in terms of that as well. Most importantly, it can be deep strike, which is nice, and yeah, this helps quite a lot. And yeah, the Lehman Russ Exterminator is summoned from Mr. Lehman Russ himself, can be summoned in the field, as I said before, and yeah, shares a cap with these 3. Lastly, you have access to the Siphon Interceptor, your tier 4 aircraft, very useful as it is very versatile, as all aircraft can fly around these, some good damage against vehicles and buildings, can target ground as well. Limited to, give me a second, 2 or 3? Limited to 2, so there you go. And then once you have a relic in tier 4, you can get the Wrath of Mjolnir, which is basically a Land Raider. Has also the Machine Spirit ability, which makes him resilient to damage. Has this cryogun stuff at the front, and this looks like less cannons at the side or something similar. So very good, can transport your units as well. And yeah, very nice Land Raider indeed. And lastly, you have access to a tier 1 Titan, which is the Dire Wolf. Has some good weaponry all around, has the more or less standard leg stomp and juggernaut abilities, which is basically a big stomp on the ground, which does some damage. And also the juggernaut, which increases your speed and lets unit around it big knockback. Has, okay, the cooldown doesn't seem that long, but I thought it was longer than this. This is helping you if you are surrounded by melee folks, so yeah. Has also this shield, which is basically this morale, so it resists damage until your shield is down. Okay, I think this should cover all the units, all the buildings and all the stuff. And yeah, as usual guys, we now jump over to the tech trees and then to the build orders. So see you in the documents in a second. And here we are on the tech tree document. You may know this from the previous guides I did, or maybe not. It basically shows what units and stuff you have available in the different tiers. I said tier 1, tier 0 is for me when you do not have an HQ, if you lose it for some point. Tier 1 is 1 HQ, and then the upgrades gets you more tiers. And one special thing I did for those is all the red surroundings and red linings are stuff that costs you scrap. So you can see every red outline means you need to have some scrap for it. Yeah, basically have covered everything over here. There's yeah, the turrets, as you see here, have some detection and stuff as usual. The minefields have detections and stuff. Do not want to go into most details because I told you in the video already. Just quick, what I do over here is talk about tier strength. Like tier 1 is strong in the sense that you have good units right off the gate and can be very aggressive with the deep strike and everything. The big downside is that you only have a limited amount of units, so you are reliant on your Iron Priests as support and you having your Wolf Lord around as soon as possible. In tier 2 you get a lot more options in terms of the Wolf Priest with this good aura, the first Rhino, and these 3 units, and the upgrades. So tier 2 is very strong as well. Tier 3 still very strong with also the Terminators and stuff, so you have in the first 3 tiers you are very strong, and later the game goes, the more difficult it goes for you, because these limited amount of vehicles make it sometimes difficult to fight factions that are very good at dealing with infantry. So yeah, you're very delayed on the vehicles, which is your biggest downside in tier 2 and tier 3, but you make up for it with very strong units and yeah, making up for it. And yeah, and your Titan tier is, you do not have a tier 2 Titan, so in a very late game scenario you are not as good. But I have to say, I have fended off a tier 2 Titan in an FFA with the conjunction of my own Titan and these Longfangs las cannons and stuff. So it is possible to fight a tier 2 Titan if you have enough stuff of your own. But in general, yeah, your tier 3 and tier 2 is when I think 13th Company is the strongest. Okay, we have also this page of the units over here, which shows you which unit is available and what abilities it has. Also here I have these red linings showing which abilities cost you some scrap. So there you go. Also this Lehman Russ summon and stuff. Yeah, it shows when some units get their weapons and stuff, so you can browse through here. I have made PDFs of it, so you can see it in my drive. And I also have included here these bonus units you get in survival, which will a Grey Slayer, a Longfang, a Wolfen, a Dreadnought, and a Land Raider. Special about these Wolfen is that they get infiltrated, which is not the cause for your normal Wolfens. This is just the only difference. All the other units are more or less the same. This is, I think, either by design or a leftover when Wolfen actually infiltrated by default later on the tiers. Okay, these are the Techtrees. As I said, you can download them from my drive, which I have always linked in the description here. And now we will jump over to some build orders. And here we are on the build order document. As usual, I have quote-unquote standard build order and then some varieties from it. You see these little linings over here, and on the top are the buildings you want to build, and then what units you or upgrades you can get from your units, and sometimes what upgrades you can get from the units. This little line over here indicates that this on left of this side you can get from your starting resources right away, and this is the stuff you want to add before then finally clicking tier 2, which all my build orders here. And with the tier 2 click, as from there on out it branches quite a lot depending on what you want to do, what units you want to focus, what factions you want to you face and stuff like that. Okay, your standard opener is that you get your 2 builders, and then later on your Wolf Lord. The Wolf Lord is tied to a barracks, so you want to immediately build up a barracks for 2 reasons. A, it gives you access to more units and also gives you resources. You also want to start in Hall of Knowledge right away, which gives you more resources and options to this grenade. So you want to add 2 more Grey Slayers and the Wolf Lord and the grenades, which is basically all your starting money out of the gate. Then you want to add 1 or 2 more of these armories before clicking the tier 2 button. For tier 2 you need to scrap a bit to get the scrap. You can scrap your own buildings, but I would highly recommend being a little more aggressive, scrapping enemy listing posts or vehicles. Vehicles are not out in tier 1, but you more for the most part buildings. Another thing you can do, which is very risky because you do not have a lot of units, very good I think in team games, for example, if you are not faced early on, is the economy boom. You basically start a barracks and then immediately start also a second HQ. It takes quite a long time to build, but gives you quite a lot of resources, also 2 armories, and then later you start to add some units to capture. Mind you, you start with 1 unit to capture as well, and then add as many armories as possible, and then clicking tier 2 or getting tier 2 a little earlier, and then adding the armories depending on your scrap situations and resource situations. But this, if you enter tier 2 with this, you basically have a hell of a lot of resources to get everything in the book you want. Very risky, however. A tier 2 rush is a very potent thing as well, where you get your 2 builders, of course, and only 1 Grey Slayer and 1 armory, so you still have the resources, and then you scrap your own buildings. You need 2 scrap to get to tier 2, so you need to use make, do, and mend twice on your buildings. Only works on your barracks and armory, so I would use 1 each, so you then have the 2 scrap to tier 2 rush. This goes very well into Wolf Priest with wolves in tier 2 because they're very strong. Or if you want to stay more ranged focus, you can then get Longfangs, which are also really strong. Very risky in the sense that you have very low army and very low economy. And lastly, this is the quite opposite. If you want to have a extended tier 1, you can do the Grey Slayer Swarm, which basically starts as standard opener, but you see here you add in another barracks later on, getting the squad cap increases, getting up to, with the one you start 5 Grey Slayers out and giving them flamers and everything in the book. So you have a lot of Grey Slayers which can use smoke grenades and normal grenades and flamers to kill the enemy, and depending on the resource situations you want to add 1 or 2 armories to sustain all this. And other than this is a very strong build where you want to be very aggressive, and once you have your own little part of the map kept, and can be very aggressive because the Grey Slayers are very strong. Transitions also kind of, the transition in tier 2 is kind of late, so you need to do some damage to make up for it. And lastly, I have this proxy barracks build. This works in 2 ways. On small maps you build the barracks right at the enemy base from the start, like on Blood River in the river, on like more or less in the face of the enemy, you could say. Whereas on bigger maps like Meeting of Minds, you build it like a little more in the middle, where you have then your position to fight from. You can see here that you want to have a turret with this, of course, because you want to be very aggressive and have a fallback point in the middle of the map. Grace layers here, you can, depending on the game plan, get more grace layers, but I would recommend to don't forget tier 2, because in tier 2 you can get the real units, and if the enemy is good enough, he will just circumvent your little outpost and go for your base, for example, because if you have all the units and buildings at the enemy base, you do not have anything defending your own base, which is a thing certain company struggles in general, because you do not have listening posts, you only have these booby trap points, which aren't as strong. So this is kind of all in-ish, very useful in small maps, however. Okay, these are the build orders out of the way, and as usual I close my guides with a replay, which I look closely at. A replay this time I've played myself against Mr. Blue Dude, where I use 13's Company. Normally I would have liked to have a replay of him, because he enjoys 13's Company quite a lot, but as the new update to 7.2 is just out a week or so from the video uploading, I wanted just to have a replay, so it isn't on the highest level of play, but it shows what 13's Company can do and cannot. So see you in the replay. And here are on the replay where I face Mr. Blue Dude as Blood Angels, as 13's Company myself. So we stick to the 13's Company point of view, so you can see and see not what I see as the 13's Company player. We do not use the Fog of War, so we only see my point. I go for the standard opener here, getting the 2 Iron Priests for now, getting the Wolf Den, and immediately start capping with George, the Lonely Grey Slayer over here. He's looking really strong at this point, so you get some resources later down the line. The Wolf Den takes a minute to build, so yeah, your second builder can be a deep strike to your point, and then immediately build the booby slapped point over here. So you see again this quick delay in the deep strike, which is yeah. Then you have the Iron Priest coming in, your second Iron Priest, and once your Wolf Den is out, you can start your Wolf Priest and 2 squads of Grey Slayers, as well as 1 armory, or 1 squad of Grey Slayers. Build your armory and then get your Wolf Lord, I think, if I'm not making a mistake here. Come on, Max, click. Okay, I think I put it in Overwatch, so there you have it. Get the guy over here, because there's no building increase with more than 2 builders, so there's no need for that, because I want to have 2 Grey Slayers out to fend off any early aggression, and I know that Mr. Blue Dude likes some early aggression, so there you go. Getting this point now up soon-ish, having the armory here, and yeah, you see the Wolf Lord is what helps you the most in fending off early aggression, so this is why you want to have him as early, immediately building up the booby trapped point over here. It only costs 10 requisition and 10 power. Doesn't provide a whole lot in terms of resources, but is still worth the investment quite shortly. Then I have 1 squad of Grey Slayer added here, with this squad of Grey Slayers here, and you see that I move in these Iron Priests as well for some support, and my Wolf Lord is already also almost there. A little hiccup over here, and I already see some scouts that I can attack. What I completely forget is George over here. George gets completely murdered, and almost forgetting the Iron Priest as well. I think the Iron Priest will get away, but George is a goner now. I have my Wolf Priest out. I think I deep strike it over here a little earlier than I normally would, because of the bigger delay. And you see here the Iron Priest tries to sprint out of the way, and will be able to. Spoilers, getting the grenades immediately after the second Grey Slayer squad is finished. And here we have Tycho. Tycho wants to go into melee with me, which is fine, because I have these Grey Slayers to support. So I knew it. This was the second game we played actually, and I know I kind of knew what he wants to do, so I anticipated this. And I'm not running after him. I try to get my points, so I want to get this relic and also this strategic point, standing in the defensive posture with the Wolf Lord and the Iron Priest. Over here he is taking my booby trap point, which yeah will take some damage over here, adding another Grey Slayer after the squad cap increase that I didn't need because George was killed. Over here I can immediately use my scavenge ability on this listening post, which gives me some extra resources and most importantly some scrap. So I have now 4 scrap. These Grey Slayers I position over here in anticipation of these Space Marines over here because I thought he may want to go into my base. I even positioned this little herd Iron Priest on this side on the so he doesn't get focused out. But other than that, I can now start tier 2 with resources and scrap I got, looking a little forward with my Wolf Lord to see if I can get a model or two, but this critical location is not captured. So I'm just sitting here for now, getting this point, and I wanted to decap this point with one and want to scrap over here, but then I decide, oh, I see a lot of units over here, so I go back. I think I will get the critical location decapped, but yeah, these guys need to stop capturing, which is a little hurting a lot, getting the Iron Priests over here, getting no more Craze Layers from the base as well. But these guys I keep here now for capping. The Iron Priest has finished the decap, needs to come over here. Other than that, I try to reposition here. I have these mines which deal a lot of damage against enemies, so that is something. And I use a little thing to attach the commander over here so it cannot be focused down. You see here, very close to being dead. The little Iron Priest, not sure if he doesn't make it. Using the smoke grenades and the heavy cover in conjunction to get a lot of damage reduction, and yeah, he cannot stay here for long. He has used the Tiger ability, so all his units take more damage as well, so not the best position he has in now. I'm getting this booby trap point now. The Craze Layers fend off these scouts. It would be even better once the point is up here, so we will see some big explosion, even throwing a grenade in of mine, so I can defend this very well. But as he runs back here, I thought he will go to this point, and that's exactly what he does. I put a cryogun turret in the back of over here, and I think the grenades are on cooldown, so nothing I can do here. But I am tier 2 now. Adding a wolf den, a second wolf den on the way to tier 2, so I can get the pack increases alongside some more units at the same time. And now I'm moving in here using the wolf cry as well, which increases my damage even more. He has still enabled the ability, it looks like, yeah. And so using some smoke grenades now and just fighting and using, there's two squads, one uses a smoke grenade and one's using a regular grenade. Now comes the Rhino and the cryogun turret, which is sadly not in range, so these guys do not benefit from it as much. Is it actually firing? Not yet. So this Craze Layer squad is about to die. I move it out of the way because I want to have it a Craze Layer leader, but it dies. The first squad of Longfangs is here, but there's the Rhino. I can put these guys in the Rhino and drive over here where my turret is. So that's that. Other than that, you see I have very limited map control right now. Getting another Iron Priest, I think, another Longfang. So the first Longfang, actually, the first Longfang is in here. The second Longfang is being produced. Actually, I wasn't planning on it, it was just on Overwatch. So using the smoke grenade as well from the damage pattern Rhino, and shortly we'll move these guys into Rhino and move on. This Iron Priest goes back away from here. I'm not sure what his plan was, and I completely forget about these Longfangs. I deep strike them here as defense and maybe offense, but for now they are just standing here. Rhino coming in. I see Tycho, I do not see that he is very low, so if I have seen it I would have dropped here. And the second Longfang is in the HQ, adding now another Craze Layer because I have lost so much. No upgrades from the armory is a little mistake of mine, and now having the Iron Priest, which I think deep strike over here if I remember to, getting some melters to kill this listening post a little more quickly. The Iron Craze Layers want to cap this, and the Longfangs from over here I wanted to set on capturing over here. See, the Longfangs are very good ranged fire, killing a lot of these already. And yeah, these guys in negative cover, eating quite a lot of shots over here. I wanted to decap this, not sure if I'm aware and make it, or if I wait deep strike. You see here, these guys are now capturing this, so I kind of get my part of the map. The economy you see here is very low, but that's more or less the way. Now we have some targeters and some plasma pistols. Plasma pistols are very important for your commander units, your wolf pack unit, your pack leader units. The commander units itself do not benefit from him. I still keep the wolf lord in this pack over here to have some protection. I now want to move in here. I do not check that these are veteran squads, but yeah, I have the demos to move through and set the Longfangs over here. Go on, Max, do it. get out, so they can fire over here. I now move the Rhino back in, have another squad of Grey Slayers coming in, and these guys, I think they finished the cap and they need to run away as quick as they can, because they're throwing a grenade using the Wolf Shout. And sure, if the Wolf Shout is the most important thing over here, and these guys can now shoot, whereas these fighting, also the Rhino has some support over here, but I lose my Wolf Lord now here, and these units have broken morale because of this. But then I remember that I have some Devastators. I think I still have one in the HQ over here. No, the one is over here, killing a lot of Marines soonish. And at some point I remember these, but for now I need to run in circles over here, throwing grenades every now and then, because these guys forcing melee combat. Over here I kinda, I saved these long fangs and moved them over here, so you have to shuttle it a bit. I completely forget of those guys. Grey Slayers going in for the cap over here. I'm not sure what happens to those. Do they win? I don't think they win. You see, not the highest skill replay here, but also you see here Mr. Bluetooth's letting them in the cover. So my plan now is getting a Wolf Priest and some Wolves out, because the Wolf Priest can slow all of this down, so my guys can actually shoot. Have Deep Strike an Iron Priest here, which can get the Booby Slap point and then start to repair this Rhino. And I think I just started now. And these are only 2 squads of veterans getting a lot of models killed. And the Wolf Priest coming in 10 seconds from now. And should make good work against these guys, as I said, with the slow. I now finally remembered I had these guys. So I'm moving now in. And whoops, my camera. And now this guy's over here. Now I finally notice that he's there. Come in, use his ability, so these guys can now run away. You see how much it slows in combination with this negative cover, which also slows units, and also using a grenade and everything. So they can now stand here and fire these guys. I'm Deep striking another Iron Priest, I think, as also some support, and there comes the Wolves of Fenris on the map. And once the Wolves are here, I can really turn up the heat, completely forgetting again about these long fangs, which would need to go a bit more in this position. I think he has complete division of this, because he has still the 2 of the critical locations. And I did not enable... I have enabled the wrong... what did he host? I think he hosts. He hasn't enabled the take and hold victory. You have some missile launchers, dudes over here killing my Rhino, but this is the least of my concern. There's still one of these guys, and now I can move in. I can use these. I'm a little late on these. I could have used these Iron Priests to do some scrapping over here. I could use some units to decap this and decap this, but I have quite a strong army with these Wolf Lord over here having some economy, and I think I could go tier 3 at some point if I get some more scrap going, which I was about to do here, using the Iron Priest over here soon-ish. The Iron Priest over here decaps this point, and in the middle I kill some scouts, even with these long fangs in melee. So there you go. Attacking now this point, and there's nothing much less. There's the Devastator squad over here, one lonely guy with the blue helmet standing here, and there GG is called by Mr. Bluetooth. So the early game was quite topsy-turvy, with the benefit on the more mobile Blood Angels, because the Grey Slayers can deep strike, but they are not the fastest on their feet, so they can be anywhere, but they're not fast in repositioning. So you sometimes have problems defending on multiple ends, which he used here. He could have actually attacked my base, not sure if it would have been the right choice or not. He chose to attack over here, which I used the negative cover to my advantage. In general, do not forget about these Iron Priests. The Iron Priests have quite a good damage. You can see it here in melee and ranged, and are very versatile. You always want to have them in the army. Also, you saw the Wolf Lord and the Wolf Priest dealing a lot of crucial damage and using crucial abilities. Okay, with this out of the way, as usual, I say, guys, thanks for watching. If you have anything to add to my guide, or if I told you something wrong, please correct me. And if you have some more in-depth build orders, I'm also very interested to it. But as usual, guys, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.